Dolomina, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, my apologies for the delay this morning. I had meetings till about 3:30 a.m. this morning, and I had another one quarter to 7. That's the delay. But I'd like to thank, of course, the principal for the invitation, and it gives me much pleasure to be here. After listening to him, I really don't have much to say. He said it all. But I'd like to make a couple of points in respect of values and principles and indeed leadership. And I'll be very brief about it. I was really, for the first time, I've been here about 2 or 3 times. It was the first time I actually, sang your song, the school song and the school prayer. And I think it's got very significant meaning in it. And one of the things that did strike me, and a lot of people generally don't think about this, when we talk about our relationship with the Creator, with the one who made us, God, in whatever shape or form, we talk about how we can individually improve ourselves to be a better person, and therefore you hold in good stead with your Creator. So on the day of judgment you do well. But being a good person is not only about yourself. Being a good person is also about how good you are to others. You may go to church, you may go to the mosque, you may go to the temple, you may pray, you may be good to your family. But when it comes to the crunch, do you have the compassion? Do you have the capacity to be able to feel empathy for others around you? That's what truly marks a person who believes in the fundamental teachings of God. Because if you look at any faith, all faiths, in fact, teach us to stand up for injustice. In Christianity, it said Jews and Gentiles alike. What does that mean, actually? It means what Jesus was saying is that you must treat everybody equally, irrespective of their background, irrespective of where they come from, irrespective of their ethnicity, irrespective of their faith. Because ultimately, we are all God's children. And that, if you believe that, and if you apply that in your life, then actually we won't have bigots. Because many people we've seen in the history of our country, in the history of other countries, they make decisions, they give charity, they have empathy based on communal basis. Whether it's provincialism, whether it's faith, whether it's a denomination, whether it's ethnicity, whether what school you went to. I've seen that in civil service. People, just because you may be, some of you will become leaders very soon, you may be in a decision-making process. And just because somebody is an ex-Natambua does not mean you give them a job ahead of somebody else who's more capable. Those are the fundamental things that makes a good leader. But even before making a good leader, those are the fundamental values and principles that makes a good human being. And what we do and what we say must in fact merge. There was a very famous mathematician, a Persian mathematician, who was around about the 13th century. His name was Umar Khayyam, but he was also actually a poet. And in fact, if you look at the history of poetry in the world, there's this thing called stanzas. Stanzas are what we call 4-liner poetries. And his poetry normally sort of centered around a lot of social issues. And I'm quoting now because I've recently been to a lot of schools, and there seems to be a trend with a lot of the teachers. They start off with a quote, and they end up with a quote. So I thought I'd better get into that swing of things also. And there seems to be a thing within the Ministry of Education. And he said, he was supposedly a religious person, a spiritual person, and he was walking down the street, and he saw this lady who had a bit of a reputation of not doing good things. And he said to her, he said, every time I see you, you're caught in a different snare of evil. Every time I see you, you're caught in a different snare of evil. And she turned around and said to him, she said, "Oh Sheikh, I am what you say, but are you what you seem? I am what you say, but are you what you seem?" So sometimes our outward appearances, what we portray to the world, may not actually be the person you are. Things like status, positions, all of that has no meaning, or it becomes very hollow if you actually do not have integrity as a person. I recently sat at a gathering where, it kind of struck me because I did not know what to say, so I was thinking about what to say. It was marking the end of Ramadan, it was Eid festival, and I said to this particular gathering, I said, generally people from a worldly perspective, they pursue titles and positions. They pursue a name. They say, "Oh, so-and-so is there. So-and-so is this person, or minister, or CEO, or whatever." People pursue the name. Say, "Do you know who I am? I am so-and-so." They look down on people. But do you know what happens? The first thing that happens when you die is that your name goes. I'm standing here before you, I could this afternoon have a heart attack and die. When my body is in the morgue, even my family members, they're not going to say, "Oh, we're going to bring Ayaz from the morgue to the home tomorrow." Or we're going to bring Ayaz from the home, keep the Ayaz for there for a few hours and then take him to the cemetery. They'll say, "We're taking the body. The body is now in the morgue. The body will be taken home in the morning, and the body will depart home for the cemetery, and the body will be buried at this hour." That's the irony of it. That's the irony of it. So, as I say to all leaders, all of you who are here, please remember, we are all mortals. We will all die one day. That's an inevitability we cannot escape. And if we are able to remember that, that will help you to become a better human being. It also means, ladies and gentlemen, as your principal was saying, that when you actually apply your rules, when you, for example, you will be given certain powers by your teachers, by your principal, to ensure there's discipline or there's some form of order in the school, do not abuse that. Do not abuse that. Because ultimately your credibility and your integrity will depend on how you're able to apply that. And when I say don't abuse that, apply that law equally, irrespective of who it is. It could be even your family member. It could be somebody who lives down the street from you. It could be somebody who's from the same province. It could be somebody you go to the temple with. But when you apply the law, it must be applied equally to everybody. Otherwise you lose credibility. You won't be a good leader. There's a very fundamental essence of being a leader. And the other essence, I think, one cannot escape this, it's election year. So one of the things you have to always do is to tell the truth. You have to speak the truth. And sometimes speaking the truth will mean that you will get a lot of negativity around it. And even if that truth means that you actually will be incriminated, but you must speak the truth, because ultimately that's what people will look up to. Even if it means that you may be implicated, you have to speak the truth, because at the end of the day, you'll come out better. When people die and nobody says, "Oh, that guy had a Lexus, we had a big house," people say that guy was a crook, or he was a nice guy, or he always spoke the truth, he was honest in his dealings, or she always helped people. That's what you'll be known as. I'm not saying we're all going to die tomorrow. What I'm saying is that when you become a prefect, and when you stop being a prefect, and if you want to leave a legacy, your legacy people would talk about you. And so, did you know Pauliasi, who was, for example, the head boy? He was such a fair guy. He always did the right thing. That's what you want to be remembered for and by. So, ladies and gentlemen, Like I said, I think these are some of the fundamental lessons of being a leader. I don't want to make a long speech. Today, of course, is a very important day for these young men and women. Today in Fiji, 70% of the entire population is below the age of 40. 65% actually is below the age of 35. So all of you, including myself, we're over the age of 40, we're the minority group. These people are the majority. Very soon, they'll also become, very quickly actually, they'll become leaders. They'll become leaders, not necessarily political leaders. They'll become leaders in the community, in the job where they work, anywhere. So it's the fundamental teachings that we need to inculcate in them. I've always admired teachers, in particular primary school teachers and of course high school teachers now, because parents don't probably realize this. They'll leave home at about 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. and they get home about 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. depending where they live. So the bulk of their, what I call awake hours, is spent in the school. And the bulk of that awake hours is actually, the people who groom them are the teachers. They have enormous responsibility. Teachers can leave an indelible mark on a person till they go to their graves. I know there are certain teachers, I went to Marist, better school of course, but that's another subject matter. But I went to Marist, and there were certain brothers that taught me. I remember there was a brother, Eugene, who I used to do oratory, and used to sit in the Lambert Hall, and he used to sit right at the back of the hall, and he was the only person in the hall. He used to put his head down and listen to how I spoke. People like him, what they taught me, have left an indelible mark on me. It still resonates with me, what the brothers taught me in terms of dealing with other human beings. And I'm sure the students here, the teachers, the principal, all these teachers who are here, are actually leaving an indelible mark on them. So parents, I really want you to appreciate the fact that these teachers are the ones who are having an enormous impact on your children. And I think it deserves a round of applause for all the teachers. Not just here, but all over Fiji. I was, 2 days ago, I was in the interior of Ba. I went to Navala village where the entire school roll, the primary school, was about 110 students. They did not have internet. We went to connect wirelessly to them. They don't even have phone connectivity. They have to go and climb some far-flung hill, climb on a coconut tree, put one leg out, and then they get connection. And then the next school I went to was Namau. Namau, the entire school roll from class 1 to 8 was 32 students. The entire school roll from class 1 to 8 was 32 students. We have classrooms here that have 32 students. There is a disparity between some of these schools, in the urban schools, in the rural schools, the maritime schools. What we are trying to do is get that level of connectivity for everybody. I was in a political meeting in Lautoka on Monday night, and when we opened up the floor for questions, because in our meetings anybody can ask any question, and we stay there for hours, and there's actually a lady a young student from Natambua. I don't think she's here, because maybe she's here, I'm not sure. And she asked a question. She said, every day I have to carry a very heavy bag load of textbooks to school. And my family members in New Zealand, they only take a tablet to school. When will you put all our curriculum on the tablet? It's a very good question. But what I answered to her was this. If we give everybody a tablet in Natambua, I'd like to give a tablet to everybody in Navala too. I want to give it to the people in Namau too. I want to give it to the people in southern Lao also. Otherwise, we'll create a disparity in the education system. So this is why government is spending literally millions of dollars to get everybody connected. I don't want to make you feel guilty, but there are lots of people who don't necessarily have the same kind of connectivity you have. things we take for granted. And as future leaders, that's one of the things we have to always think about, is that when we make a decision, how will it affect everybody? Are we further marginalizing those who are on the margins of society, or are we trying to bring them in? And that's critically important. In the same way, you'll find there are certain students who may be bullied in school, who may be introverts. Your job as a leader is to bring them into the mainstream. Your job as a leader is to find the empathy and the time to be able to help them, because you, by doing so and helping them, will leave an indelible mark on them too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to once again also thank all the parents. Of course, without the parental support, students cannot be where they are. You create the environment for them, you can do the right things for them. And there's one message I want to have for parents, please, and I say this everywhere. I said this at Davao College recently. Please allow your children, they're here, some may be outside, allow them to pursue the career they want. Don't force them to be a lawyer or an accountant or an economist or an engineer. If they want to do nursing, let them be a nurse. If they want to do carpentry, let them do carpentry. If they want to be a marine scientist, let them do that. Because if they pursue a career which they feel passionate about, they'll be damn good at it. They'll be damn good at it. And they'll feel happy, because pursuing a career is also all about internal happiness. It's not about what the world wants, it's about what you want. So they'll wake up in the morning, they'll jump up out of the bed, and they'll want to go to work. Last quote, teachers. One of my favorite philosophers, a guy called Bertrand Russell, English philosopher, and he said this. He said, a genius with a brilliant idea at the wrong time is considered a madman. A genius with a brilliant idea at the wrong time is considered a madman. An ordinary person with an idea at the right time is considered a genius. So ideas need to be flowing. People who bring about changes sometimes may seem to be something that's out of the box, but you need to be able to assess how it will impact the future. And that's what leadership is all about. So you need to make contributions to your teachers and to your principals, because they may not have necessarily thought about it, but it may be a brilliant idea. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for the privilege, and I wish you all a very good morning.